So this is a video on the 99 to 04 Ford Mustang GT 2-valve engine. These are the intake manifold gaskets, and I had to replace my intake manifold because of me over tightening the thermostat housing cover to the manifold itself. And so I ended up having like a hairline crack, which actually got bigger after time. As it progressed, it just got bigger. So finally went ahead and decided to replace it. I do have the intake manifold. We'll put a video out for that later on, but for right now, just examining the old intake gaskets, and they are actually pretty good. They are Ford quality, and I might have to buy some of these later on down the line. I have some FELPROS that I bought that I'm going to be using. I'm kind of looking at the bin. I've been here comparing them, and the FELPRO ones are actually somewhat decent. The gasket itself is on the Ford gasket, the gasket itself is wider, and it did actually do a pretty good job of keeping water from getting into the runners, and also keeping the what do you say, the buildup, the carbon buildup from crossing over. So these gaskets did do a pretty good job. You can see little areas where it kind of crossed over, but for the most part, the gaskets did do the job pretty well. And the side that I'm focused on, this was the driver's side, that's where the leak was at. And you can see some of kind of like the coolant like just dried up like on top of the gasket itself, and it did a pretty good job of keeping like the coolant out. It did have a little bit of coolant in one or two of the cylinder heads, around the coils, but that was just because of the coolant was leaking and running on top of the cylinder head where it mats up with the intake manifold. So that was the only area that I was getting coolant in. But as for into the intake runners, no coolant got in. That was a good thing. So comparing the two, the FELPRO gaskets, you can see that the actual gasket rubber itself is thinner compared to the Ford gasket material. As which I said, I am going to have to replace these here with some actual Ford brand ones later on down the line. Hopefully I won't have to, but we'll see how that turns out after installation. I'll give it about a few weeks, maybe a month, and kind of rag on the car a little bit and just look for some leaks. And if it holds off pretty well, then I might just wait about a year or two, and then I'll just replace the gaskets with some actual Ford gaskets. I'll be paying a little bit more, but I think it'll be a better investment than these FELPRO ones. Passenger side, it didn't really have any kind of coolant leaks. It was mainly the driver's side for some reason. Even before I had busted the intake manifold at the thermostat area, even before that, I already had some leaks in the backside of the intake manifold from one of the bolts. For some reason, it was just a leak back there. So that caused a leak there. And then this number 2 runner right here, that one had a lot of carbon buildup. The driver's side had a lot of carbon buildup. Don't know why. It had a lot more carbon buildup compared to the passenger side. And I cleaned them up pretty well. Other than that, I will be installing these FELPRO ones sometime soon. And then the intake manifold, and we'll see how these FELPRO gaskets hold up. And these are the PI intake manifold. It's an 01 Mustang, so I was kind of thinking in the beginning before I started doing all this, if my engine was swapped with a non-performance intake manifold or engine, but turns out I don't. It's the actual engine that came with the car. That's good. So I didn't have to buy some cheap intake gaskets, and it doesn't look like I'll need to be adding any gasket maker around the coolant areas of these gaskets. I won't need to be doing that because it's pretty much just performance intake manifold and PI engine with the PI heads. Should just be pretty straightforward and simple swap. It should be gravy. But anyways, yeah, that's gonna be it. And I'll be coming back with another video later on down the line, later in the week.